Now, today you have been hearing some of the biggest names in Australian music as we continue to mark Oz Music Monday. You might be inspired by their songs and stories day to day, but for some it does inspire their hope for a career in the industry, as we heard from Hayley Marston just a few moments ago, that whole idea of if you can see it, you can be it. Another instance of that recently has been the Bowen Space Project, giving young people a different idea of some of the careers they may be able to chase into the future. I wanted to find out more about that idea of if you can see it, you can be it. So I spoke with psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens, and I asked why it's so powerful in shaping some of those career aspirations. Stay with me for more on that. I'll hear from Dr. Jo now.
It's really important because it does set our expectations. We can't consider the possibilities sometimes unless it's right in front of us. So we know that if we see someone and they resonate for us in some way, they look like us, they sound like us, they come from our background, whatever that element might be, that point of connection, if it's in front of us, we can consider the possibilities. And we see that in music. We've seen that in the sporting world. We know that message. And you're right, it can almost sound cliched, but it's so true. If we can see it, then maybe we can be it.
And we see it politically. We see it, you mentioned sport, and I think that as a young girl growing up, there was probably 2 or 3 athletes, female athletes, that were given a lot of mainstream attention, whereas now we have teams and sporting competitions that we just didn't have when I was growing up.
Exactly. We see career opportunities and that's what it affords us. And this has been going on for as long as we've been witnessing other people. So Roger Bannister, it was incredible when he broke the 4-minute mile, and some people might be familiar with the story because the science said at the time it's not possible. He believed that it was. He trained for it. I think it was over 30 people broke the barrier the next year. So it's that when we see the possibilities, we can perhaps dream for it ourselves.
Yeah, it's aspirational. So what are some of the qualities that enable trailblazers, the people who are the people who that you can see? What are some of the qualities of those people to forge those new paths?
They're fascinating, aren't they? Because I guess that bravery and courage is probably a starting point. And I guess for those people who are that courageous, their willingness to take a risk and to potentially fail, and maybe they've failed many times before, is part of what we would expect to be part of who they are. We also know that trailblazers often have vision, that ability to bounce when things don't quite go the way that we want to. And what you will often find is rather than seeing obstacles, it'll be things to be overcome. And so I think there's lessons that we can all take from the trailblazers in any of the areas that we're interested in. Is it's really about how we consider that potential barrier and see it as an opportunity, which maybe will help give us the courage then to take more adventurous steps.
Yeah, how do trailblazers balance that pressure of being a first, which they're probably just eyes on the prize, so they don't think about it in that way, but how do you balance that with that need for innovation and progress?
Yes, and how do you do it in light of risk-taking as well? It's such a great question. We know that drive is something of a delicate balance, if you like, and what trailblazers are often able to do is to channel all of that opportunity into energy and use that to fuel what it is that they're doing, and will often build really strong support networks around themselves as well, and hopefully practice some self-care to manage the challenges as they come along. Because what we often see is we see the end result. We see the fast time. We hear the incredible music. We see the rockets flying off into the sky or whatever it might be. And what we haven't seen is the years and years it's potentially taken, and the hard work and the disappointments to get to that stage of success.
Yeah, the even just thinking of it metaphorically, those who are cutting a new path, that's if you think of it going through a forest, that slashing that new path is always going to be, there's going to be some resistance there, but it's often worth the journey. You're hearing from psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens. So in what ways does increased representation in various fields impact society as a whole?
What I love about it is it challenges stereotypes. It opens up possibilities. You talked before about what you witnessed as a child in relation to women in sport and what you see now. So the expectations change. It broadens our perceptions about what is possible. And hopefully what that helps then is with decision making and policy making, where funding goes, right across the sectors from business to politics. Representation really fosters that sense of belonging, particularly for underrepresented groups, and hopefully helps to increase participation and opportunity for those who want to who step into those fields.
Yeah. How can people develop that resilience to break new ground in their chosen fields, whatever that may be?
Yes. So that's going to be the crucial part, isn't it? Resilience and our ability to adapt to situations is really part of success. And I'm often talking to athletes I work with that failure is not the opposite of success, it's actually part of it. So it's how we manage those disappointments and even how we view it. Often I will find trailblazers that I've worked with, they don't even view the disappointments, if we want to call them that, as failures. They just say, that's just something that happens on,
it's a learning opportunity
on the road to success, because the disappointment has happened regardless of how we might have wanted that to go, but then it's what you do with it that becomes really important. So we know that sort of performance mindset, that I'm on the pathway to growth, is really, really helpful for people as they're trying to break new ground. And also having that strong support network, particularly mentors and people in your corner, is particularly important.
Sometimes when I see people who are in those trailblazing positions, they seem like they probably do have a great team around them, but they do seem like it's a bit of a solo mission sometimes. How can organisations and institutions better support that innovation in those trailblazers so that they're not just out on their own as lone rangers?
It's such a great question. So it's really about putting the support mechanisms in place, because we do know that if you look at a group of people, it's only usually a very small percentage that sort of sit in that innovation side of the hub, if you like. And of course, what we know is that innovation takes time. It has potential costs for us in terms of resources and so forth. So you need an understanding organisation that innovation takes time, costs money, requires resources. So you need capacity around that. And then you need to have opportunities to get on board with the innovation, whatever it is. And what you'll find is that people have different levels of willingness to engage with, because I guess what we were then talking about is once the innovation comes along, that sounds a lot like change, doesn't it? And we know that we don't all like change. So it's having good onboarding strategies for managing change that really helps organisations navigate and I guess get to the pointy end of their field, whatever that might be.
That is psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens.